Hello everyone, my name is Mimi79. Today I've got some daily race C around Monza, and this combination comes up once every 6 months or something like that, maybe a bit more frequent. But we're in the Chevrolet Corvette, which is by far the most popular choice in this race, but there's a Ferrari in 13th, and I believe there's an SLS behind us as well, which is being driven by Quinton, who is one of the fastest drivers on the game for sure, and behind him is Tijani, and in front of us we've got Agunator. So pretty frightening prospect of having so many aliens around me. But we're going to start on the hard tyre because there's no point really being on the the fastest compound at the start of the race, especially when you start at the back. Might as well get rid of the slower tyre early while everyone's, spinning, crashing, get reset. You might as well just clear that tyre. We're braking very early into the Della Roggia because I don't want to get caught up in any accidents. But what I should have done here is gone to the inside, because to be honest I should have really got away from this kind of group, because look how slow he's going. I'm going very slowly, but we're onto the back straight now, and this should be a very easy pass. We're going to pull over to the left hand side and we're going to sail past into what is now 14th position. But in fact Quinton coming down the inside, he's just going to push us off, and he's going to pick up a 2-second penalty. Deserved? I'm not sure, but there was contact. I did get pushed wide and that happened. But round the parabolica then for the first time in this race. At this point I really wanted Tijani to just move over to the right. I was like, move over, but unfortunately he didn't. We're just going to have to tuck behind the Brit for now. But as we go down the main straight, or the pitch straight then, for the second time, we're going to look for the move into the first corner. We're going to get it done, but then this was really weird. I went on the throttle. I didn't even stamp it or anything. It was just I went over half throttle, and then the car just went. The hard tyres not having much grip whatsoever, and it's a shame now because we're pretty much 5 seconds behind the pack now, and it's going to be very difficult to get a top 10 finish in this one by the looks of things. Just weaving there, trying to get the grass off the tyres, and then just cutting the inside of Della Roggia just a little bit too much, and there's a half-second penalty. At this point I was really considering rage quitting, because when you're so far behind, it's just like, what's the point? You're not going to really gain any places, and you're just going to be stuck driving around at the back. But we're going to serve this penalty, and in fact Quinton served his as well. So we've kind of got like a rough marker as to how quickly we're catching this group now, because Quinton is one of the fastest people in the game. So if I can somewhat match his pace, then I should be okay. But he is in a slower car. The SLS is one chunky boy. It's a pretty big boat in the corners, and it's not exactly amazing under acceleration either. But as we go into parabolica then, just braking super early. I can't really trust these hard tyres at all. And you could just see here how much we're going to lose, or how much we're going to gain to Quinton. So the gap was like 3.7 at the start of the straight, and now we're just going to be gaining just a little bit, and we're getting like a 10th so far on this pitch straight. But as we go to the first corner, brake just before the 150, but missing the apex, so not the greatest run. But again, anything can happen. There's still 8 laps to go in this race, so we can really make anything work, I think. But skipping to the final sector then, to the Scaro chicane, and there's a yellow flag, and the Finnish driver actually getting reset there must have had some sort of incident on the exit, and we are going to move up into 19th place, so we're not last anymore, and the group in front is now in sight. But the Austrian goes wide as well, and are we going to be able to make the place? But we are going to box on this lap anyway, following Quinton in. I was really using him as a marker really as to what I should do, because if I could keep up with him, I knew that my pace was good, and if he was boxed in lap 3, then I should probably do the same. But coming out in last place, but that's not really an issue now, because we know that we are ahead of 2 cars on track. But coming out the pits then, just making sure we could get some heat into the tyres, and it seems as though this car is quite, I don't know, it's decent at warming up tyres, but I'm not too sure. But some tyre blankets could really do a treat on this car, I think. But as we go into the Della Rocha then, braking just before the 100 board on the kind of strip of tarmac on the right hand side, going through there pretty nicely using a lot of the curb, and it is very tricky to chicane, but again you have to really maximise those track limits. So if you can basically gain 2/10 if you get it absolutely perfect. If you make the most of the track limits, you can gain so much. That's really the story of this track on this game anyway. You need to make the most of the limit of the track, especially the chicanes, like Ascari using all of the curb pretty much, and then on the exit you can't go all 4 wheels over the white line, otherwise you will get a penalty. But you get the idea, you really have to use as much curb as possible on this track. So as we go into Parabolica then, Pulsu dropping into 19th, so the pit loss is around 7 seconds in this race. That's something to bear in mind. So when Pulsu eventually makes his pit stop, we will be about 4 seconds in front of him. But there's a couple cars coming out the pits then, and the Frenchman, we're going to rejoin in front of him as well, and the Croatian. We're going to brake just a little bit earlier, and he just overshoots his braking, and we move up into 18th place. So now we've actually got some track position, which is pretty remarkable considering how far behind we were at the start of lap 2. But there's still more places to gain. Our fastest lap is a 1:56 at this point, but I know that we can go a lot quicker. I know that for sure, because I lost like 10 seconds or something on that mishap. Because if you think about it, just we're going to look at the end, we're going to see where Tidjani finished, because he started behind us, but obviously at the end of lap 1 he was in front of us. So if we could basically use him as a rough mark as to where we would have finished if we didn't have that incident. But gaining on the Finnish driver here, and Eli Jura, who was right in front of us actually going into the chicane on lap 2. In fact, we were side by side with him, I think. But as we go through Ascari, nice and smooth on the power, you kind of have to be through there. You can't really stamp the throttle too much, otherwise lap time will be lost and positions will be lost as well in your starting position on the grid. As we go around the final corner, the gap's really closed up now, and in fact a couple of cars going into the pit lane to make their one and only stop in this race. You don't really want to make more than one pit stop, because of the pit loss. It's about 7 seconds around this track, and realistically you aren't going to make up 7 seconds in like 5 laps, especially when there's so few corners. There's Quinton facing the wrong way, and he's also got himself a 5-second penalty, so I'm not sure how that's happened, but it has, and he's in 18th position now. But I'll take it, because now we're all over pretty much the back of this group, and into the Della Rocha. They're closing up so much, and then through the chicane we're going to get past Pulsu, but unfortunately we get a half-second penalty. A bit of a shame really, but to be fair, there wasn't really much anywhere I could really go. But you know, it's only half a second. I think we should be able to regain that relatively quickly. So we're going to serve our penalty here. We're going to drop back behind Pulsu any second now. We don't actually lose that much. It's actually quite even the way it works out. It's actually only about 3/4 of a second loss, when normally quite a few tracks it's like 1 second. So I tap him there, and I genuinely thought that was a penalty and that would be my race over. But thankfully it isn't, and we don't get a penalty, we don't get SR down, and we continue as we were really. But into the Parabolica, there's 3 cars pretty much within 0.3 of a second. We're going to go round the outside of Parabolica, very audacious move, but I think it's pretty clear that Pulsu's tyres are finished, and it's going to go over to the right hand side, as does the Austrian, but it actually smacks into the wall and gets a 1.5 second penalty as Captain Slow comes out the pit lane, and we move up into 13th. So in the space of 1 lap we've gone from what, 17th to 13th, and it's a pretty good turnout I think, and we're closing up to this huge group of cars. And so there's potential for a top 10 here, which would be absolutely insane considering where we were at the start of lap 2. 5 seconds down to the rest of the field. We got a penalty as well. It was all looking a bit down, but we actually get past him there, and the car getting reset, so gained 2 positions effectively in 1 corner as a Portuguese driver, I believe, with a 3-second penalty. So we are going to move up into 10th place. This is absolutely unbelievable. The fact that we were 20th and last at the start of lap 2 by a pretty sizable margin, now we're in the mid-pack, is quite unbelievable. Tidgeny though up in 2nd place, but I think he's yet to make his pit stop, so it's not really accurate at the moment. There are still going to be 1 or 2 cars who are going to go to the hards at the end of this lap, as the Spaniard gets a 1 second penalty for cutting the inside of a Ascari, I believe. If it was a contact pen, then that would be absolutely ridiculous, but I think he just cut the inside of Ascari a little bit too much. Looking for a move then on the inside of Parabolica, but he managed to get his braking pretty spot on, and we remain in 10th place. But the SLS behind us is still a threat in this race, so we've got to look out for him. But we are going to effectively move up into 9th place at the straight, or the back straight even, as Paul Walker moves across there, a bit late to be fair, but Skull Crusher there in P7, so it's all up for grabs now. 7th place is right there for the taking. We'll have to get very lucky to get anywhere higher than that, but we're going to go to the outside of the Spaniard in the Mercedes, but we're just going to keep our nose in there, and he's got his lever space. We're going to go down the inside into the Della Roja. We're going to move up into 9th place. So nice slick overtaking so far in this race, and to be honest, I'm really glad that I managed to stay in this one, because I think the one thing I learned from this race is that at Monza anything is possible. You could be 10 seconds behind everyone, you could still finish 10th. It's crazy. But we're in the slipstream now of Skull Crusher, who I believe is on the hard tyres, and he is going to be vulnerable, but he's got a run on Paul Walker GTR, who I've seen quite a lot recently, but he managed to just defend for now as we go through Ascari then, just really keeping it pinned to the inside for the middle part, and then powering out on the exit. Really tricky corner actually to get right. You have to judge when to power out very precisely. A bit of a late defensive move from P. Walker there, and there's a bit of contact on the apex between the pair of Aston Martins, and in fact both, I think we're going to get past both of them here. The Corvette is just a little bit better in the straight line than the Aston Martin now. I'm going to sail past both of them into 7th place, but they're still in with a shot getting me back, because obviously there's still 2 laps to go, anything can happen, but I think they just both hold station for now. As we power out then out of the first chicane, we've got a 3.5 tenth gap to P. Walker behind, the Frenchman, and I went defensive here, but in hindsight I could have probably just stuck to the racing line, but we're just going to stick to the inside of the Della Roggia, and we managed to keep our position. Skull Crusher going for a move then, that's going to cost them so much time. The gap was about 2/10 before, and now it's 1.2 seconds. So going side by side at the Della Roggia is just not what you want to do. It loses you so much, and there's also a big possibility of a crash because it's so narrow. A bit wobbly on the exit, but we've got a sizable enough gap, and Aguinator, who actually started just in front of us, is actually in the lead of the race, which just makes you think, if we got past that Frenchman on lap 1, we could have been, you know, in second or in third, which just goes to show how good of a race Monza Grid 3 is, especially race C, because anything can happen. Like, you can start pretty much dead last and still win, as Aggie was done, although he did start 14th instead of 20th. But again, it just goes to show how many overtaking opportunities there are, and also the amount of strategy. You might think, oh, there's only 2 tyres to choose from, or 2 tyres are mandatory, but in fact there's a lot of different times you can pick, a lot of different compounds you can switch to, like a lot of different ways. So it's a good race, it's very solid. There's no fuel saving either, like last time. Well, it was like ×6 for fuel, which is just ridiculous. As Paul Walker there getting a 4-second penalty, he's trying to push off Skull Crusher, and to be honest, I was kind of thinking, what a pillock, because he has a bad reputation, admittedly. I think over the last few weeks he's been up there with one of the dirtier drivers, and he has been acting like a bit of a tool, really. You know, pushing people off the track, not leaving enough space. You get the idea. He is quick, he is a quick driver, but I'm quicker than him, so he isn't really that quick, is he? If a cow was faster than him, then that sets the bar very, very low. But down the back straight then for the last time, and it is going to pretty much be P7 unless something happens behind us, or in front of us, should I say. But as we go through our scar, there's not really many more places to bin it now, unless your brake pedal fails at Parabolica, and you're pretty much done for. But it's going to be P7 then as we go into Parabolica, braking just after the 100 board, taking it nice and easy, and on the way out it is going to be P7. Really good recovery drive, I think. And I really, really enjoyed this race. There was a lot of overtaking, a lot of action, no penalties as well, which is just really nice to see. But if you did enjoy, like and subscribe, turn on those post notifications. But take care everyone, and goodbye.